Tarps Off Sports.
This is Sergio with Tarps Off Sports. I am joined by UFC flyweight Miranda Maverick. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks.
So last time we spoke, I think it was back in February, and it was before your Jillian Robertson fight. So overall, I guess on a personal note, how have you been doing?
I've been doing great. I, of course, got engaged last week and getting ready to move to Colorado to Team Elevation. So a lot of changes getting ready to happen in life. And, you know, on top of that, just staying busy, trying to get my education done with and moving on with life.
That was actually my next point. You did get engaged. Congratulations. The way it played out was kind of, I guess it was almost like a prank. How did that come about, and what was your reaction initially?
Of course, I knew that the asking was going to happen at some point, but I didn't know where or how. I really thought it would be hard for him to surprise me because I'd be like, well, anything he asked me to go do or date or whatever, I'm going to know. But it was perfect. Like, I had actually asked him to go to the gym with me, and then he just asked me to spot him. His back had been hurting, so the weight was low, and I don't know how to spot very well, so it scared me the first couple seconds. I thought I had done something bad. And he dropped and asked, and it was perfect. It was funny, but it was good.
Another thing you mentioned there was that big move to Colorado. You've been working with Hershey now, I think, since, was it April or March or something like that?
Yeah, April, I believe it was.
So how has that been, and how do you manage both that and obviously training and everything else?
It's not easy, that's for sure, but I do only work part-time, and I kind of get to run my own hours. It's fully remote, so that makes it 10 times easier. You know, I wouldn't be able to have like a full-time job right now, especially with that and finishing up my thesis. Excuse me. But Hershey has been just really kind to me. I'm a contracted employee, so I kind of get a little bit more leniency probably than some of the actual employees. So it's just been a great, I guess, additions to my life have been pretty good lately.
And we talked about this last time, was how important school was for you. With that being said, I mean, obviously you're a UFC fighter. Most UFC fighters don't do school on the side. How far away are you from being complete?
Yeah, things have changed since we talked last. So I went from going to get my PhD to my master's. Didn't really have a choice in that matter. I'm kind of still annoyed by it. But I'm going to have my thesis done very soon. I just lost motivation, honestly, over the summer. I'd already have it done. But it is important that I just have that degree. I've worked so hard for it. At least get my master's and go on with fighting, because I think it's important to have something to fall back on. I, of all people, know that within 2 seconds, everything can change. You know, my eye surgery, my life was over. I literally thought my career with fighting was done with. Any kind of athletic background I had was done with. I wouldn't be able to put pressure on my eyes again, all this stuff. And I was very scared, you know, because I didn't feel like I had that backdrop yet. But now, like, fighting is something that I want to do. It's an inspirational thing, not a desperational thing, as my dad likes to help coach me with. You know, a lot of people have to fight. That's all they have going for them. And I choose to fight. And it makes it to where I don't have all the weight on my shoulders when I go into fight. I think it's healthier that way, to not be like, I just can't lose, you know. Instead, it's, I'm going to win. Like, I don't have to fight to not lose. I get to fight to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another big move, or another big decision you're making, you mentioned it, was you're moving to Colorado. You're going to be working at Team Elevation, one of the best gyms in the world. It's at altitude. What went behind the decision to move there, and obviously to work at Elevation?
The team and me being closer to family. Pete also got a job out there. Just a lot of things that went into it. But the team out there is just very great. It has a high population of female professional fighters out there in Denver. Not necessarily even just at Team Elevation, but, you know, Tisha Torres is pretty close. Rose Namajunas is there in Denver. All these women that are just amazing fighters are right there. Have access to them as training partners. Have, you know, the cage, these elite coaches and trainers to be working with. So ultimately that, plus Elevation to train in, just a lot of things went into me deciding. But believe me, I started with like a whole tree of decisions, you know, and I was like, well, first let's break it down to states we would be willing to move to, you know, and went from there, and then broke them down to which ones have the good gyms, and then which cities would we want to move to, and then, you know, distance from family. Got all the way down, and it was like Florida or Colorado, and being closer to family kind of broke the tie.
I love it. I love it. I want to talk a little bit about your fight a couple of weeks ago, Jillian, or against Maycee Barber. It caught a lot of people by surprise when the matchmaking happened. Two very young prospects. What was your initial thought when the two of you were booked against one another?
The same as it is now, and that's that we're going to be fighting again later down the road. I think they should have waited until we were higher ranked, both of us, because we are two young fighters. They keep pitting the young fighters against each other, and it didn't really make a change to the division. You know, once again, it's stagnant with us being number 13, number 14, number 14, number 13. Like, keep just switching it back and forth. That doesn't help anybody. And on top of that, it kind of like, I guess, lowers one of our standings in fans' eyes and other eyes that are watching, and raises another one up, but not really, because we stay in the same spot. So it didn't make much sense to me. And the decision alone didn't make much sense to me, but that's another side topic.
Yeah, that was my next point here. This year has been very weird with decisions, is the best way to put it. We've seen it throughout the entire year. Kamako was on the rough end of one. You were also on the receiving end of I wouldn't say terrible decision, but it was very controversial. I thought you had won the fight. What was your reaction when you watched it back?
I did think it was a very terrible decision. I think it's one of the most clear mistakes, I'll give them the word mistakes, even though I don't know if that's what it was, that have been made in the judging. You know, I've watched the fight 20 times. You look at all the different people who scored the fight that were fans or that were actual like analysts. Mm-hmm. They all score it for me. Even if they're fans of Maycee, pretty much everybody scored it for me. I say that the third round was actually closer than the second round was. You know, like one could argue that I won the third round, even though I think she won the third round. The second round, I think, is not even an argument. I landed more strikes. I got a takedown. I dominated her in the last minute and a half. I took her back. I threatened to choke. And all she did was get an attempted takedown. I stopped it. Took me against the cage for like 15 seconds, and I reversed it and punched her way more than she punched me. I just don't know. But it's one of those things where it's less money in my pocket, but there's nothing we can do about it now. So there's no real sense in complaining about it. I'm just going back to the gym as if I lost. And honestly, even when I lose a fight, I act like I lost. When I go into training, I look at everything that I did wrong and keep improving.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you handled it. I mean, most people would go on Instagram and complain, and you just kind of took the high road, and you're still continuing to do that. But as for your standings, I mean, you had a good trajectory. You were moving up the ranks. This really kind of sets you back a little bit. If it were up to you, what would you like? Would you like the UFC to match make you like as if you were coming off a win with like a ranked opponent, or do you mind just taking a step back?
Nope. In fact, I prefer the step back now. I'm going to try to fight a couple girls that are of a little lower rank, get paid a little bit more, and then make it back to the top, because that's the thing now. There's such a pay discrepancy between me and a lot of the ranked girls just because of my time that I've been in the UFC versus them, that I would like to be paid more to fight these top 10 girls. So get a couple more wins up my belt, and then they can fight the disaster that's to come, because I'm not going to become an any more nice guy. You know, I'm going to be coming to finish the fights now, not win fights even. Obviously, judging can always happen the wrong way, and this is going to kind of burn me, and I'm going to train to finish fights instead of just win them.
As for a turnaround, obviously you have a big move coming up. Is getting in there and getting a feel for elevation more important than taking a quick turnaround? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes, is what I kind of discussed doing literally the day after my fight with my manager. I'm going to try to take a fight mid to late November. That gives me enough time to get out there, figure out which coaches I want, and have a full fight camp with them so that I can get used to it.
I want to ask about one last thing here before I let you go. You're very busy. You do lots of things. We've established that. But you're doing some commentating in a couple of weeks. How did that come about, and is this something you've done before?
I've commentated 2 other times, once for a local place in Missouri when I was a brand new pro, actually, with Invicta Fighting Championships. To be honest, though, I was very familiar with the other people I was commentating with, so this one's going to be a little bit different. I have no idea who anyone is. And then once was over like a radio show, so that's different as well. So it's definitely new for me, but I had kind of just put it out there that I was free for seminars for gyms, still am, by the way, or private lessons. And somebody contacted me asking if I would be willing to commentate and do like a kind of a meet and greet at their event. And I was like, of course, you know, it's literally the last day that I'm in Virginia. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'd love to come do that, and it just be kind of a going away / more fans to get to know me, and hopefully also contribute to that local event.
Perfect. And then is there anybody you'd like to thank or sponsors or anything like that before we end it?
Yeah, I'd mainly like to thank my management, of course. LCA Sports Management has just been really great to me. All my sponsors who have stuck with me through thick and thin, Top Mount Apparel and HKA, which have helped like boost my website, you know, get me designed, all these things for me and help me stay on track with that. Give me some extra income on the side. If you guys want, please go check out fearthemaverick.net. I have all this new gear out, from t-shirts to boxing gloves that are my own line. They're super cool. I actually love them. I literally wear my own gloves, and so do a lot of my teammates, from hot pink to red, white, and blue. So I'm excited about those. Go check them out.